Okay. All right, Bill.
Let me get some paperwork here.
All right.
Just gotta promise to be quiet, that's all. But you can come in and watch if you want. Will you?
Just be quiet, he's gonna leave.
When were you born?
2908 Gallia Street,
I mean, when?
October 6, 1925. Up here on the east end.
All right. And, yeah, your address of where you were born now was what?
2908 Gallia.
2908, okay. What, were your parents' names?
Grover C. Conley, Grover Cleveland Conley, and Bertha Louise Conley.
Okay. What was her maiden name?
Bertha Louise Mullins.
Mullins?
Mhm.
Okay. And are you married, single, divorced, widowed, separated?
I'm married, 4 children.
4 children. And your wife's parents' names?
Noel.
N-O-E-L.
N-O-E-L.
Okay.
Frida was her mother's name, and
And Mr. Knoll.
yeah,
Okay.
Mr. No, my God, I think it's Frank. I will not swear to that though.
And you have 4 children?
Yes, sir.
And how many grandchildren do you have?
Well, we had 5. Let me make sure of that. Let's see. Bev's 3. Kathy 1. Bill 1. Or Tim 1. And that makes it. That's
Okay.
5.
Now, when did you enter service, Bill? The date?
26th September 1943.
Were you drafted? Did you join?
I was one of 4 brothers, and all 4 of us volunteered.
And what branch did you go in?
U.S. Navy.
Navy? How would I know? That's what I want.
Yeah, how would you ever know?
And where did you do your basic training in the Navy?
Well, I spent about 3 days at Great Lakes and 4 weeks at Norfolk at Camp Perry, and then extensive training at Gulfport, Mississippi, and then Hueneme, California.
Okay. And what was your MOS, your military occupational specialty? What was your job in the Navy?
Well, I was electrician mate,
Okay.
3rd.
When you were discharged, what was your rank?
Electrician mate, 3rd.
That is a rank?
Yeah. Now, I was a apprentice seaman, and first class seaman, and on up the rank. But I went from apprentice seaman to electrician mate, 3rd.
Okay. Now, were you overseas?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go?
We was in the Marianas to the, well, first we went to the Marshall Islands, the Anahuac Atoll. There, ended up on Ingeby Island with MAG 21, MAG 22, which is Marine Air Group 21 and 22. For them, we took care of their needs and wants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Did you do electrical work?
I didn't know. I was one of the seamen then. I didn't get to be an electrician until years later.
Oh, I see, okay.
No, sir. I hauled bombs up the airstrip and naval aviation gas. Anything that the Marine needed up there, that's what I was doing. I was taking care of it. I even ran a roller on the airstrip.
What's
As
that?
Coral, if you take coral and you don't water it, it dies. It goes to dust. If you take coral and water it, grows. It gets sharp like razorblade. So in order to maintain that airstrip, you would water it, it would grow, you would grate it, you would roll it, you would water it again, and it was a continuous every day thing. If not, it would grow and it would get cut the tires in the planes, which I've seen many of them flip, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what caused it, but our job actually was that we were taking care, of course, we had the whole island.
Mhm.
Our outfit did, it's 275 of us. We took care of all the waterworks, everything on the island that was needed,
Mhm.
and made sure that we maintained the MAG 21, MAG 22,
So
so they could function.
what kind of planes did they fly?
Corsairs, TBFs, and Hellcat.
Okay. Now, were you in combat any? Did you see any combat during that?
Well, I don't know what you want to call it combat. They were trying to bomb us, and we was
Okay.
bombing them, and
Right.
we was we was right there. I mean, I'll put it this way. The little island I was on got missed, but they were trying to. They was hitting Anahuac and the other islands, and the little island I was on got missed.
Mm-hmm.
But I was, it was. I guess just one of them things we got missed. The last group come in, there was 12 of those fighters, Japanese fighters, what they call them, Bettys, I believe, they were bombers, well, not fighters, they were bombers. And there were so many American planes up there, and they just let them take one pass. And would you believe that MAG 21, MAG 22, when they took their shot at them, one of them flew and cut the tail off the other plane. We lost 2 planes.
Gosh.
And of course, the men got out all right.
Mm-hmm.
But the only 2 casualties that there was of this bombing raid was those 2 planes that one cut the tail off the other.
Did you have any decorations from your service time?
No.
Had ribbons for campaigns?
Oh yeah, you had campaign ribbons for the Marshall, the Marianas, for NGB, and I did see an ammo dump go up, which I was the only one left, and everybody else left, and I was standing guard over that thing for about 5 hours, and them big old shells coming through the air. Man, they were just cutting the trees down. I only weighed 130 pounds then, and I found me a big coconut tree, and I got behind that thing. And then the ones that were in the air, I learned that you couldn't outrun them as they hit the ground. You had to run under them because they were coming this way, you know, before they hit the ground.
That's after the ammunition dump blew up.
Oh yeah, they went off. It just one section right after the other went
What
off.
caused that to go up?
We don't ever know.
Okay.
Reported Japs did it, but whatever, it's immaterial. I know the night before on guard duty there, some boys were having a little shootout there with something, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
Japs or their imagination or not, because there was no...
Was that the scariest thing that ever happened to you?
Well, I suppose I had fear several different times, but I suppose that was just as close as any, because they cleared the area out and put me on the guard. The island fire marshal comes up, and I said, "You're not allowed in there." And he says, "I'm the fire marshal. I do as I please." He drove over, had his buddy or driver drive over, parked beside this here section. My hand to my maker. They hadn't even got out of the Jeep, but boom, that section went off, and that Jeep just flopped over on its side.
Mm-hmm.
And they pushed it back over. And when they went past me doing 40, 50 miles an hour, they never said hi, bye, or nothing.
Mm-hmm. Everybody leave.
I was still the only one there. But that was,
Did you?
I had another incident where I was standing on top of a truck. We were pouring concrete to get the beach, or the Guam. We'd moved down there, and there was just hundreds of ships out there wanting to be unloaded. So we went up on a bank and poured about 10 strips of concrete, probably 80 to 100 feet long and 60 feet wide. And we were pulling this, unloading these boats, ships, and pulling this material up the road, up the bank with bulldozers. And finally the old man said, "Let's build a road." And we built it, we just made a turn, and we was on leveled off, and I was standing up there with my hands in my pocket. And I was the guy on top of this truck. And they had the truck sectioned off there. You pull out a section, and that was a mixer, a load of core for the mixer. And I had just unloaded a couple of strips, and they pulled up, and I was standing there with my hands in my pocket, and an explosion went off. I don't know what it was, and I couldn't get my hands out, but I went off that truck down about a 50-foot embankment. And I didn't have no hide on my face, a big cut on my chin, and both arms is all swollen up and everything. That,
That was,
that kind of shook me up.
I bet. Well, how long were you in the Navy?
Oh, about 32 months.
32 months. When were you discharged?
Oh, 45, December 45.
Mhm.
I said 32 months, but that was 2 months of that I was called, that I signed up, but I didn't get called until September 26th. That
Okay.
date there is the date I went into camp. But
Okay.
actually, I joined the Navy right after high school.
Did the Navy change you any? Were you the same when you got back, or did it change you?
Well, being off of the little hill farm out here, it changed me because I had not.
We're on. Okay.
We're on.
Let's pick up again where you were telling me your discharge date. You were in for 32 months or 38 months or?
30. Well, actually, actual time in the service was 28 months, but the sign up was 32. So let's just make it 28 because that's the actual time.
Okay.
The rest of it, I was waiting in line to get in.
Mm-hmm. All right.
17 years old, put it that way.
Okay. And you mentioned something about a unit, a special unit or something.
Yeah, we was, I was started out in the 144th Construction Battalion, Seabees they called it. And there we went into a naval in Gulfport, Mississippi after we took our training, and we went up to Rhode Island and to the firing range. There was 75 of us went into a special unit, a commando training unit.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we were shipped to the West Coast. And on the West Coast out there, all of a sudden they needed somebody to take care of these Marines in Marshals, because apparently things went a little easier there than what they thought anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
We got out there, we left with this invasion police actually, and we lost our steering. And we went around the circle for about at least 36 hours until the steering was repaired.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went into Pearl, and they did a little work there, and we took off with the convoy. And time we got to the Marshall Islands, where the island was secured, and of course we went right in. There wasn't no streets or roads or anything, it was just holes and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But one little incident I'd like to tell you about,
All right.
we hadn't had any fresh food in quite a while, and so the old man said cook. They lined up on the beach and they put their stoves out and they cooked. And just as we're going through the chow line, they have a bombing raid. And I was in the line and I just kept my food and took off running and got in my foxhole. But the story I'm breaking back down to is this. By the time everything was over with, well, the fires was out and the water was cold, so the guys washed their mess gear in greasy water and rinsed it in more greasy water. Now, I don't know where these guys came from, but no redneck like me knew that you couldn't do that. So I went down to the ocean, I took sand mine out, found that bag that had some drinking water and rinsed it.
Mm-hmm.
But about noon or so in the afternoon of the next day, the guys had eaten breakfast out of the same gear and dinner, and they all had GIs.
Is that right? They became ill.
There was no facilities. The old man seen, I guess somebody reported, and so they sent a ditch digger down there, and they just dug a trench about as long as this building, and these guys were sitting on each side of it with the GIs, and I walked up there, and it was the most comical sight that I ever saw in my life, and they threatened to kill me. I couldn't help laughing now. To see all these men sick, sitting on each side of that
Crapping their brains
trench.
out. Okay.
I can see it today, just as if it was yesterday. Now, I
Yeah,
tell
I
you.
can kind of see it too. Did you like the Navy?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't stay in, you came home?
I came home, electrician, made third class. Yes, I did.
And what did you do on the day you were discharged, right after your last day of duty?
Well, let's see. I got on a train. We headed for Great Lakes, Camp Downs. There was a big snowstorm. We got blocked out there and sat for 3 days out there in one of those passes. Again, we ran out of food. We didn't have nothing. And there was a Canadian village we could see in the distance. And after 2 or 3 days, the boys just said, we're going to go get something to eat. Well, they had signed several of us guard. We couldn't stop them. There goes the whole train into this little Canadian village. Me went up. And they treated us like we was kings.
Is that right?
They fed us, they gave us booze, they could, anything that you could want, and whatever they had, they gave it to us so we could take it back. Took us 6 to 8 hours to get everybody back aboard.
Is that right?
Yes, it did, to get them all because
Was that in Washington, near Canadian border?
it was right near the Canadian border. I couldn't tell you where it was at because I was asleep when all of a sudden we come to a screeching halt.
Mm-hmm.
And they then after a while they signed people, guard.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, after it kept longer and longer, And so it just happened that that was probably the best thing that ever happened.
It sounds like a great thing.
It was great because, hey, we were hungry. We had people who were treating, and I'll tell you one of the honest things. I had $1 left, and we got into Great Lakes. And there was a railroad worker there, standing there, and he had his lantern, and there was donuts. Somebody was selling donuts, and I asked this man if I had the only $1 in the car. I was going to buy as many donuts as I could get. And I asked him if he'd take my $1 and get us some donuts, and he wouldn't know who in the hell we thought we was. And of course that infuriated me, and I almost probably could have got court-martialed for it, but I just jumped off the train, took out, he took off, and I went over and got my donuts, got back on the train and passed them out. But there was a difference. This Canadian village treated us like we were kings or whatever. And one of our own Americans there, who in the heck we thought we was.
I'm sure that was the exception, though.
I'm sure it was, but he may have been asked to do that by 10,000 men.
How many donuts did $1 buy?
I think I paid 3 cents a piece for them.
3 cents a piece.
Yeah.
33 donuts.
I'm almost sure it was 3 cents a piece, and probably could have got him to give it to me, but I just give him the $1, and well, I got all the donuts you had. Put it that way. They could have been more, or could have been less if they'd had a whole lot more,
Bill, you got some pictures there.
Yes, sir.
Who are these? Hold them up there one at
Okay.
a time. Maybe I can
I
focus in
am one
on
of 4 brothers, and we all volunteered. And
Let's get that out right here. Let me put that.
and this is my brother Glenn Vernon Griffith Conley,
Yeah, wait a
my
minute.
oldest brother.
Let me get in there on him a little bit.
Now, he was a half-brother. My mother's first husband was killed in a railroad train engineer, and he
Some
was...
glare on it. Here. I'm going to take this camera off.
Okay.
So you're saying his father was killed in a railroad
Yes, sir.
accident?
He was an engineer. He went off one of the mountains over there, and he lost some brakes, and...
Mountain in what, West Virginia or?
I think it was West Virginia. It was from... they were from Greenock over here, where they originally were from.
Mm-hmm. Now, he's in uniform there. What does that mean?
It means that he was in the National Guard here in Portsmouth, And when the fracas got started, he was put in the 37th Division and 134th Field Artillery.
Okay.
And that's the group he served with down through the South Pacific until he came back and was...
Okay. He was in combat then, and
Pardon me, sir?
was he in combat?
I'm sure he was, because he
Okay.
was one of the first groups down there.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably run into some more of these 130, the 37th Division, because they were all from Portsmouth.
I see. Okay. Now, what was his name again?
Glenn Vernon Griffith Conley.
Okay. And did he pass away? He
Yes.
passed away? When did he die?
Oh, 69.
1969.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who else do you
He
have?
was born on April 1st, 1917.
April 1st. Okay, 1970. Who else do you have there, Bill?
All right, number 2 brother,
Okay.
second oldest, Grover Cleveland Conley Jr.
Grover Cleveland Conley Jr.
Right.
Okay, named after your dad then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that looks like a Navy uniform.
Uh-huh.
What's the story on it?
And he was born April the 24th, 1923,
Mm-hmm.
here in Portsmouth. He was working at the air base in Dayton, and the guys got the kid in him and said, hey, a young man like you should be in the service. So he quit his job at the Air Force and come down here and join the Navy.
I see.
Took his training at Great Lakes, and there he went into an armed guard division, which was nothing more than a group of gunners on merchant ships.
I see.
These merchant ships back in them days, they didn't have enough ship for convoy, so a lot of ships went out on their own. But they were given a Navy armed guard group. If you was ever on a merchant ship of any kind, during, you would know, you would have seen the guns, and these were armed guards that the Navy put on each one of those ships.
Okay. Now, where was he? Was he in the Atlantic?
He was from, well, like I say, he was from Brazil all the way everywhere, and his ship was sunk on Normandy beachhead
I see.
during the invasion,
I see.
Omaha Beach.
What was the name of his ship? Do you recall?
The SS John Staggs.
John Staggs?
Yeah,
S-T-A-G-G-S, do you
I
think?
believe that was the way he spelled it.
Okay. And did he lose his life there in the
No,
ship?
sir.
What
He
happened?
Was, got kicked around a little bit and was ruptured there. He had just laid down. You know, they was getting ready to go and not go and go and not go on the invasion. So it come his turn to lay down, and he lay down on his bunk and went to sleep on the top bunk.
Uh-huh.
And while he was asleep, he'd been on duty, I don't know, I think 24 straight hours, but anyhow, they decided they was going in, and his ship went in, they hit a mine, and they blew the fantail off of the ship, and the old man just fired it wide open while it was still run, and run it aground.
Mm-hmm.
And he was bounced off of the bunk and landed on his head. And he never did really get over the incident, because in closing the watertight compartments, they drowned 24 men. But when she went aground and they got the compartments opened up, there was 24 boys that had drowned, and that was all was the matter with him. He never did get over that.
I see.
Bringing them out on the deck and trying to revive them and all that,
That would be hard to take.
it stayed with him.
Yes.
Until the day he died.
When did he die?
Oh my goodness. He died in 96.
Okay, 96. Now, who's the other picture you have there? You got another one. That's your third brother, right?
Yeah. This is Kelly Lee.
He's the youngest. Was he the youngest?
No. It was actually a cousin who
Oh.
came to live with us when he was 6 months old,
I
and
see.
my dad adopted him.
I see. When you say adopted, did he actually go through court for
Yes, he
adoption?
was adopted.
Okay. And what is his name?
Kelly Lee Conley.
Kelly Lee Conley.
He was a Conley, he was Kelly Lee Conley from my dad's brother.
I see.
So his name wasn't changed
Okay.
at all.
Now, where was he? Where did he serve? He was in
He
the
was
Navy.
in the Armed Guard also,
I
same
see.
as Grover.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one who made the trips into Murmansk, Russia, about 4 of them through the German wolf packs and what
I
have
see.
you.
Uh-huh.
And that was more or less his run was from the United States to Russia.
I see.
He was also went into Iran and places like that on different voyages. But his main wartime duty was into Murmansk, Russia, up through the Channel, the English Channel, and to Russia.
That would be fascinating. Did he see any ships sunk and that sort of thing?
Well,
Did he?
I believe the last time I talked to him, he said there's about 60 vessels and 34 of them made it to Murmansk, and they was one of them, the last trip they made up there.
Oh, darn. Yeah.
He said, you know, that they would be going along, and these ships, these guys were in lifeboats, and they'd want to pick them up, and they wouldn't. They said, no, we're safer in the lifeboat than we are on the ship.
No.
So that was the kind of duty that North Atlantic and up through to Murmansk was.
When did he pass away?
Let's see. My mother died, let's see. She was 96 years old, and she was with him, and it destroyed him.
Mm-hmm.
And this boy here, he didn't have no family, he had no children.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife died about 3 months after he did, and Grover Jr., why, his family's scattered all over, you know. And I'm just glad it's going to be here. So in case somewhere down the line somebody wants to know,
There they are.
but that's about the most info that I can give you about
Okay.
him. I had one other brother who was
Uh-huh. I wonder.
Charles Lindbergh.
Could it be Charles Lindbergh Conley?
Yes. So
What happened with him?
he died when he was only 6 months
I see.
and premature, and he, of course, in them days they didn't have the facilities for taking care of.
Okay.
That he lingered on a couple months, I think, and he passed away.
Okay. Thanks a lot.